Hello, everybody. My name is Blue, and today is the second episode of the Higashiyama Zoo and Botanical Garden speed build. This episode, we'll be building the Malayan Tapir enclosure right at the entrance next to the rhinoceros enclosure. This build is a small build. It won't be as long, and the actual building itself is going to be very similar looking in style to the rhinoceros building, but don't be afraid because this will be the only other building with this style. But it's just because it's at the entrance; they both kind of have the same style. So yeah, I'm using the 3D printed pieces from the conservation pack with this building. Same with the rhinoceros enclosure, and honestly, now that obviously I kind of had the style already going with the previous build, this one was easy, I suppose. I was already in kind of like the scheme of things to build this enclosure. So yeah, this build was not too difficult. It's not a complex build, but it was fun. It was a fun build. And I think this one actually turned out better than the previous one. So let's hope it continues like that. So every exhibit I'll do will be better and better. But I've already done some work on stuff around the enclosure off camera. So I've added some extra like plant pots with trees and some stuff like that. I'll show you at the end of the video when we do a walkthrough. But yeah, here I'm building just the foundation, just the outside of the building, and here are like three gates, three little hatches for the Malayan tapirs to go through, but only one of them will be open, just to show how it would look like open and closed. So they're going to be two closed and one open, basically. I'm now readjusting the size of the holes because the Malayan tapirs have to fit through, which is quite annoying because the Malayan tapirs are not really big, but the hitbox is quite big, which is quite annoying. So the gates or the hatches are a bit bigger than I would have liked originally, but oh, what can you do? So yeah, I'm adding a a staff door as well. Uh, I'm looking for a bigger door so it looks bigger than the Malayan tapir hatches, because obviously that would make sense because a human is taller. I end up building my own door eventually anyway, because there was no door that looked utilitarian and big at the same time. So yeah, I end up just using my own design. And then also obviously a viewing on the inside. That will be one of the last things I do, but this is just to set the wall to know where the barrier of the enclosure goes. And here is a little glass door that I'm building, a custom door. Because planners, we should add some glass doors actually, some like modern glass doors and some sliding door looking things, because it's one thing that the game doesn't have. But I generally always use the same kind of design, just using the glass panes and those Australian metal beams. They just work really well to build glass doors like that. And a little window on top as well, and those also using those Australian beams. I use those beams a lot because there's not a lot of just simple metal beams, and I wish the Australian beams would be darker, because if you paint them black, they're not really completely black, which is a bit annoying. And the other beams, like the other metal beams in game, are thinner, so there isn't really an in between. The roof is quite simple. just the same as the rhinoceros building, just a flat roof. You don't see it anyway, and that's just basically how it looks like as well in real life. It has some sticky out bits on top, similarly to the rhinoceros enclosure, but a bit different because it has windows in front and it's just blank on top, just browny reddy color. But it's also slanted, so yeah, so you'll always see the walls sticking out on the inside, but there's nothing you can do really. Maybe you can, but this is the best I could do. So not more you can do there. I'm not sure if I will be doing any builds like, you know, outside of enclosures, because I feel like enclosures are more interesting to watch, because as I said before, I've like the whole plaza area in between the two enclosures I've done off camera. I just added the statue, some plants, and I also made a little like archway kind of thing for a bridge that will lead to another section of the zoo. But I've done that all off camera, but I'll show you, as I said, at the end of the speed build. But yeah, here I'm using the same rhinoceros fences, the same fences I used for the previous build, just to keep it in the same theme. And this one is, well, way smaller than the rhinoceros build as well. But this one was more difficult to do because there weren't as many images online of the Malayan Tapir enclosure in comparison to the rhinoceros enclosure, because I don't know why actually, but I managed. I just got a lot of videos of people filming the Malayan tapirs of different angles, so I could rebuild the background of those videos basically. But the right hand side was the most difficult to do because no one really showed that side of the enclosure. So the far right of the enclosure, like right next to the enclosure, the grass, just the open bit right to the enclosure, is like mostly done by myself. Just made something up that looks like something that could be there. But yeah, the rest was quite easy to copy. There was something weird with this wall because it wasn't straight. Like you can see how it's elevated from the floor, but it's not at the other side. So I had to redo it there so it's straight. That was weird. And then the gate, I will move the gate to that opening right there. So yeah, so I'm also using the same wall designs of the rhinoceros enclosure for the like backdrop of the exhibit, and also a little trench. But actually, in this trench, the Malayan tapirs can actually walk through, unlike the rhinoceros exhibit. So this trench is part of the exhibit, you could say, because it's not as steep as well. It's like a mild slope. With concrete at the bottom, because that's just how it looks like. And then I use the rustic walls from the Europe pack. I love those pieces. I use them a lot. Europe is probably one of the better packs out there, I think, because of the pieces. It has some really good pieces. And yes, as you can see, it's not as steep, but for some reason they could jump from the enclosure to, like, they could jump out of the enclosure basically. They could jump over the trench, which is really weird. I didn't know a Malayan tapir could jump that far. So I had to adjust the trench a bit, just so the Malayan tapir couldn't escape. I even tried to lower the mulch, but that didn't work. So I ended up making the gap of the trench a bit wider, which worked out, so that's good. Oh yeah, here I'm moving the gate to a more appropriate location, and now also adjusting the barriers so they align with the wall that I've built. And the backstage stuff I'll do later as well. Well, I've decorated the backstage a bit, but not completely. So yeah, here you can see how I'm extending the opening between the exhibit and the wall. And it fixed it, so that's good. Also here adding some more texture with the plaster, giving it a different color on the inside. And mulching it up. That's a word now. You see me like just stand still for a brief second a lot of times. That's basically me looking at images. So yeah, I tried to cut out most of it, but yeah. Here I'm making a custom gate as well to hide the Planet Zoo gate. In the middle there's a big pool. The pool was a bit annoying to make as well because, you know, water is just annoying to work with in my opinion. So I had to lower the pool a bit just so it wasn't too deep, or like the water wasn't too low down rather. But it worked out. I just had to add some rocks around the pool as well to make it blend in a bit better. Some faux rocks from the aquatic pack. And then here the hatches I was talking about, getting some details. And I also add the actual hatch that goes up to all three of them for the extra detail. Using the plaster pieces because they're very diverse. I think these are from the Africa pack. And you'll see me, yeah, here making a custom door for the staff and actually using the new Twilight pack piece, like the door knob, that thing, and also the lock, so you can lock it as well, I suppose. And then adding some hinges as well from the Euro pack. Next, I'm adding some rocks at the backside of the pool. Some small boulders. And at the front as well. But only at front. The side will have a wooden fence. And as you can see, they can still walk through the trench and obviously the rest of the enclosure, but they can't go on the like rustic wall pieces anymore. They have to go around. Here, looking for a tree that fitted the best. I was considering these, but I eventually chose the birch tree because I think they kind of just fitted the best. They also had these like birch, like tree cluster kind of thing, which worked out really well. And then here on the right hand side, I'm building the fence so the Malayan Tapir can't go on the slope there either. And the fence is a bit broken on the left hand side, just to be accurate with the pictures. Using the rhinoceros backdrop for the Malayan Tapir as well, to keep it in the same kind of theme. Here I'm adding mesh to protect the trees from the Malayan Tapir so they don't, like, I don't know, basically just that's just how it was. I don't know why Malayan Tapir would ruin the trees, but basically the mesh fence protects the trees from the Malayan tapirs. They do the same with advacs, I think, but Malayan tapirs, I don't know if they're like digging animals, but yeah, basically the pine trees are protected. And I'll do the same with the other trees as well, building a little cage, a tree cage around them, just also to keep them straight and stuff, like you see a lot in like town centers where they with city trees. adding a slope to the pool because the advacs kind of glitching out when they enter and leave the pool, so I'm fixing that. I mean, they still kind of glitch a bit, but there's nothing I can do really. I think the look of the enclosure is more important than the like traversability of the not advacs, of the Malayan tapirs. And yeah, here I'm adding those tree cages and some bamboo around it as well. It looks good with the bamboo. And copying them over to the other birch trees as well. And for the cluster of birch trees, I made a custom one, a wider version, I suppose. Yet again, using the Australian beams, because those metal pieces are basically the best ones we have in game probably. And then now with the Twilight Pack, having these fallen leaves are absolutely great. I'll probably use them all over the place in this zoo. But yeah, really spamming them all over the place, because that's what would happen. There's a bunch of birch trees there, and they would drop their leaves. So, and then a lot of grasses everywhere else. Just make it look like it's not really taken care of really well. Just the cage is kind of just left there for a while, and yeah, the grass is just growing all over the place, which makes it look a bit more realistic and a bit nicer as well, having some more plants and nettles there as well, and even in front of the gate. And then obviously some more fallen leaves everywhere where the birch trees are. Okay, now the inside. I was quite proud of the inside. I think it turned out really well. Using the glass panes to look inside the sleeping area, or the like inside area of the tapirs, and covering the walls up with plaster, because the inside would be plastered, or something would be done with the inside. It wouldn't just be the outside walls, if you know what I mean. So yeah, making it all tidy on the inside, except for the roof. I can't really do anything with that. And then adding a double protection with the like making a custom fence, not fence. Yeah, I suppose so. It's a custom fence. I'm actually using. I think they're European pieces. I'm not sure, but these are really good pieces. These are thinner than the Australian ones, and if we had a thicker version of this, that would be really good, because you could make some really nice stuff. And then using, I think, the lamp support, like the I think it's a lamp support. I'm replacing a lot of them with these thinner pieces. Or is it a fan support? It could be a fan support, now that I think about it. But it's also from the Euro pack anyway, and that looks better because these bars are thinner, so it's easy to look through as well. And then having a gate in the middle, so the why am I calling them advacs constantly? So the tapirs can use both sides of the indoor area, even when the two other ones are closed, basically. And then eventually, as last, I am adding some more path and like the plaster to basically function as path where the path can't go. And then this was a bit of my own thing, I suppose. This is not from any images, because there weren't any images of this side of the enclosure, so I just made something up, which is, I mean, it looks fine. It's nothing too special. This was like, I'll probably edit it a bit more later, but this was just to finish the build off, really. Adding some planters, some plants, and some chairs to sit. And then as last, adding a fence that will basically serve as the edge of the zoo, the barrier of the zoo, and then also decorating the staff section with some plants as well. Just some simple plants, just to make it look good from the perspective of the guests. But behind the enclosure I haven't done much, just because you don't really see it. Okay, so here we are. Let's do a first-person tour of the build. Obviously, this I've already built. This is all the entrance buildings and stuff I've already built before I started this series. But this will be the gift shop. But this is what I've done this episode. I added this archway off camera. This bridge will lead to a different part of the zoo. And I've also added a bunch of trees, and I've continued a path here on this plaza. Actually, these statues should all be bronze, but I don't have the bronze raccoon and penguin, so I'll have to unlock those sometime. But let's have a look at the Malayan tapirs. So we can take a look inside first. And I think it looks very true to the real zoo, and there's a Malayan tapir inside having a nap. This is one thing you just have to cope with, because I can't get rid of this sticky out bit. That's just too bad. But yeah, it's very true to the real build. Actually, I should maybe change the walls on the inside here as well, as I've done with the Malayan tapir sleeping area. But yeah, it seems alright. And then the outside, it's not too complicated, it's quite a small build. But here he is. Oh, running away from me, going inside. So there's one open gate and two closed ones. I think it looks good. Also the trench maybe should have been a bit deeper, now that I'm looking at it. But besides that, I think it worked out really well. Also, this area, just some plants really, so you can take a seat. And there's no plants on the mulch for some reason. That's just bare. That's how it looked like. So that's how I made it. Photo accurate, you know. But the backdrop is similar to the rhinoceroses over there as well. So yeah. And I added some trees for a nice backdrop, so you don't have to look at the bare nothingness. But yeah, that's the build. I hope you enjoyed this speed build, and the next episode will probably be in 2 weeks or so. So see ya.